All right, good evening, everyone. The date is March 20th, 2024. Time is 6:30 p.m. This is the West Bridgewater Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we stand for the pledge, please be aware that this meeting is being recorded for use on the internet and our local cable station. You could stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's two public hearings to kick off tonight's meeting. The first is an application for an alteration of premise for the West Bridgewater Country Club, aka Johnston Golf Management, located at 205 East Center Street. We will read the hearing. Pursuant to Chapter 138 and Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws, a public hearing will be conducted on Wednesday, March 20th at 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the Eldon F. Marrero Board of Selectmen Meeting Room, Town Hall, 65 North Main Street, West Bridgewater, Massachusetts, on the application for an alteration of license premise for all alcohol license for West Bridgewater Country Club, Johnston Golf Management Incorporated, located at 250 East Center Street, West Bridgewater, Mass. Interested parties are invited to be present and heard. At this time, Mike, I'd look for a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
And I will second that.
So, Mr. Chairman, they have decided to rescind their request. It came in after everything had been already posted. That's why we're having a hearing. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And if none, all I would ask you to do is to take a vote to take no action on the request in front of you, and then vote to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion to...
make a motion to take a vote to take no action.
I will second vote in favor. And then we need a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, and I second that. Now we can open the second one. So our next public hearing is a vote to remove the current yield signs to be replaced by stop signs. A total of 3 stop signs at the intersection of Scotland Street and South Elm Street are being recommended. The notice is posted notice is hereby given pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 89, Section 9, designation of highways and throughways, traffic control signs and devices. The West Bridgewater Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing at 6:40 p.m. on March 20th, 2024 in the Eldon F. Marrero Board of Selectmen Meeting Room, Town Hall, 65 North Main Street, West Bridgewater, Mass., where they will vote to remove the current yield signs and replace by stop signs. A total of 3 stop signs at the intersection of Scotland Street and South Elm Street will be installed, and I've read the time, 6:30, so we can't do this yet.
Nope. So that's okay. We read the hearing notice. We can conduct other business or whatever you prefer. And then at 6:40, we'll take a vote to open it. And if there is anybody else that comes in the room, we can reread the posting if we need to.
Okay. Well, first up, from our budget perspective, was the police department. We can probably, Chief, if you want to get that in, jump in. What's that?
Want to go through these?
Oh. I don't know. What do you want? Yeah. How about take a seat?
Sorry, Chief.
My apologies.
Anticipating that.
These will just be quicker.
Okay. Sure. First up, vote to approve the common victual license for Frontline Bakery and Cafe, located at 450 East Center Street. How we doing? Good. Do you want to come up real quick and just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what's going down?
No, you can sit,
Wherever you
stand,
like.
whatever you
Sit.
like.
Hi, my name's Heather, this is Joe. We own Frontline Cafe and Bakery. I have been a paramedic for about 14 years now, full-time. I was working in Weymouth and then went to Fall River during COVID. And when COVID happened, I became really depressed, borderline suicidal. And at that time, I started baking. I started creating my own recipes, and then it turned into something great. It turned into my business, and I would bring them to hospitals, fire stations, and everyone was like, "You're a great paramedic, but like, you're in the wrong field if you can bake like this." So I turned it into a business. I quit Fall River, moved back home to where my family is here, and then I found 450 East Center Street. So we bought the former Two Gals Grill. We've redone everything in there. Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah,
so.
see, we're probably a week out from opening, so, cleaned it up, just redone everything from the retail side, into the kitchen, into the bakery side, outfitted with all the new electric for the bakery, new countertops in the front, new, retail counters, excuse me. FRP board in the kitchen area, flooring in the kitchen, painted throughout, some new appliances, some were, there when we took over. So it's, yeah, it's all new. It's nice. It's clean.
It's been a work in progress, but we're at the final stages now. So it'll be mainly counter style service, grab and go style, with the full bakery as well. I do custom orders for like weddings, bridal showers, all different types of events. But then we're gonna add the cafe side to it too. So there'll be breakfast sandwiches, paninis, salads, a couple of other things on the menu as well. So it'll definitely be a fun place to come by and check out.
Super. And when did you said rough time to open?
We have final inspection scheduled on Monday, so.
Aiming for like a partial opening on Friday and then a full blown, like,
Yep.
everybody can come in on Saturday.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
Alright.
and I have a lot of like back end stuff that I would like to do as well with like mental health in mental health in first responders as well. So I plan on doing a lot of stuff for like especially geared towards first responders and veterans. Like on the back end, I want to be able to do like monthly meetings and stuff like that to kind of decrease like suicide prevention and.
Super.
That's
Well,
super exciting stuff.
I'm glad you're here on a couple of levels. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
So-
So we're excited.
I'm sorry, Mike, I stepped on you.
No, you're good.
I've read the menu and now I'm hungry. And the meeting's got a couple hours to go here, so
I've been
thank you for that.
so you're good. Everybody can see.
And we have we've already hired 7 people, so 2
Wow.
full-time, 5 part-time, so it's a really good staff that I put together.
And I
So
wanna say out of those 7, I think 4 of those are West Bridgewater, residents.
yeah.
Super.
And the rest are, within, most of them live within a mile or so of.
Yeah.
of-
They live
Bakery.
closer to the place than I do.
Yeah.
Super. Any questions, Mike? Any?
No, I'm actually super excited. Like especially now after hearing your story, I'm actually really even more excited
Yeah.
for what you're doing.
Thank you.
I mean, I've already chatted with you.
Yeah.
I'm excited. You will see me visiting
Awesome.
at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, I make a motion to approve the common vic. Help me with this word,
You know what?
somebody.
Call it Common Vic for short, and
Oof.
also just make it subject to final inspections, please.
Vote to approve the common vic license for Frontline Bakery and Cafe located at 450 East Center Street, subject to final inspection.
I'll second and vote in favor.
I vote in favor as well. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
much.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. All right. The time is now 6:39, so we'll move on to the antique license. Next on the agenda is a vote to approve an antique license for West Bridgewater Antiques, located at 320 West Center Street, 2nd floor. That'd be, hello.
I'm not gonna speak, I'm just.
Support.
Nice to meet you. I'm a 25-year ER nurse.
Okay.
Also leaving that. I started Middleborough Antiques 7 years ago. It's a 20,000 square foot antiques place there. We found this place and we would like to open here too. So
Awesome.
this is roughly 10,000 square feet. We had our inspections yesterday. We have everything on site that we were told to get. We have an electrician scheduled for tomorrow. And then we'll have our second inspection and we're ready to go when you are.
We had fire building and electrical inspections, and they're just pending another, inspection. They told us what they
I
were
imagine the
ready to see.
fire is up to snuff.
Actually, something got past me, and when the chief was there, he pointed something out.
Awesome.
He was just checking with the state with it. But it seems that it's already been approved from the previous tenant. So
Awesome.
it's just a matter of a little red tape, but kind of pink now, so.
They wanted a bunch of extra, like fire signs in different areas, so we have all of that, so
Awesome. And when are you looking to open? As soon as this is approved
I'm
for the
ready.
final inspection?
Mhm.
Barring final inspection?
I would do, please.
At this point, I'll make a motion to approve antique license for West Bridgewater Antiques located at 320 West Center Street, second floor. And I'm sorry, did you have anything else to add?
No, you're good.
Barring any final inspections.
And I'll second that. Vote in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Okay, at this point, we have already read the notice for the public hearing, and I'd take a motion, Mike, to open the public hearing to discuss replacing yield signs with stop signs in South Elm Street.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Super. Second, and in favor.
So this was something that the board discussed a handful of months ago. We have done our homework and our research, and I went
Thank
out, visited the site with the police chief and also the DPW director as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put stop signs where those 3 dots are. Currently, there are no stop signs in any direction. So right now, if you are bigger and faster, you get to go first. And obviously, it's dangerous, and if you check with the police, we have too many incidences there. So at this point, there is 1 yield sign there. So what I'm asking the board to do, if it's okay with the board, is that to place those 3 stop signs. We've already ordered them because I know, based on our last conversation, you seem to be in favor
Mhm.
of doing something. So they're ready and ordered and in stock. So if you want to take the vote tonight, or you want to do it at a later date, whatever your choice is, we can get them installed pretty fast.
And I assume we'd put some electronic sign or something prior to it to,
That's correct. So, so we're gonna have a couple of warning signs in each direction, notifying traffic in advance. So we can do one of 2 things, is that we can put those reader boards up, say 2 or 3 weeks, that's how we can educate the public and then put the stop signs up, or we could put the stop signs up and still have the reader board. So it's whatever the board prefers.
no preference.
No, I'm in favor of putting them up and putting the reader board up. That way, we get it going. That way, we start training the minds for what's actually there.
Yeah, so I just need clarification. Do you want the reader boards for a couple of weeks and then put the stop signs up, or put the both in the same time?
Same time, put the stop signs up, and then, or we could refer back to the police.
I gotta be honest, I'm agreeing with you. I think if you go, put them up, notify them, we'll enhance patrols. When he stops, we'll just like we do with the texting, we'll make it educational first. But the notification plus the sign, plus the stopping, and then after two weeks or so, they can all go, and then we'll go back to just
Enforcement.
Yeah.
I think that's probably to get everything moving quicker.
He said it better than I could.
Okay.
I'll second the chief.
All right.
We need a motion?
Yep, so what I would ask you to do then is to approve the stop signs as presented, or the stop sign layout as presented.
Make a motion to approve the stop sign layout at the intersection of Scotland Street and South Elm Street as presented.
I'll second that motion and vote in favor. All right, this time I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that and vote in favor. All right,
Thank you.
Chief, would you like to join us now? I promise.
All right.
No, wait,
Sorry.
that was I skipped a spot in the agenda, my apologies. So traditionally, what we do here is we look at the items where there's change
Yes, sir.
on the line item. So if you just want to kind of go down and make your way through.
So there's going to be some changes up, some changes down. Obviously, replacing Chief Flaherty, that's going to be a down. The only significant, actually, really the only changes I made are all contractual. That was voted upon with the bargaining unit. Other than that, I haven't made any changes to any of the lines that I can see. And really, the only one of note would be the salary line that was increased, the permanent salary line due to the contract.
Okay. In the overtime and vacation holiday, that's all.
So those because they're overtime lines, I raised them at 6.
The 1.5.
Because it was 1.5.
Yep.
Of the 4.
Okay.
And at this time, we're not in need of any new vehicles or anything?
Well, we put in for the warrant article, so that not anything in the budget, but those, we're still waiting on our cruiser from last town meeting, and then I am putting forth a cruiser in this town meeting for a new vehicle.
You have that later on in the capital budget.
Okay.
We'll hit that. But there is a cruiser in there.
Just felt I overheard a cruiser somewhere, maybe I saw it.
Yeah, no, you're entirely correct. So this is just the operating budget, and then
Okay.
for all capital budget expenses, we'll see that later in the budget, in the capital budget report.
6%. That's overtime. Okay. I've got nothing else, Mike. I don't know about you.
I don't either, thank you.
All right.
And then the K-9, again, due to the contract we have with JMK, everything was at 0. So I kept everything the same, just to
Yep.
adhere to the contract.
No, I'm familiar with this. The previous chief had spoken. He liked this.
He did.
Thought it was a very good deal. So, do you have any questions on that?
I do not know.
Okay.
No.
All right. I think that was it,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank you
Chief.
very
Have
much.
a great evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Community preservation.
So normally the chair of the committee comes. She's not here yet. So if she does, for whatever reason, if she doesn't come, I'll handle it. But if you want to move on to the school one.
Yeah, sure. Hello, hello. Southeastern Regional.
Do you have a copy of our presentation, or I'm not sure if you?
Not that, no. We have numbers.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for having us.
No.
So, I'm pleased to be here to present our budget. I'm Holly McClannon, Superintendent, and this is Mark Morris, our Assistant Superintendent of Finance. So our budget presentation this year, our budget recommendation is 6.2% higher than last year. But I want to make it very clear that we continue to operate at net school spending, meaning we're at the minimum required to be spent on our schools through the foundation budget with transportation and other expenditures that are carried outside of the foundation budget. As you know, the foundation budget is primarily driven by enrollment, and our October 1st numbers were up 40 students this year. In addition, one of our largest contributing factors to the increased budget this year is our transportation costs. We were very lucky that our last contract was bid right around the time that fuel escalation costs went through the roof. So we were in before that, so now we're sort of seeing that escalation. So our regional transportation is up about 25% this year. As you know, we are supposed to receive 100% reimbursement for regional transportation. The legislature has not provided that level of transportation in a long time. So we use the actual reimbursement we received in the previous fiscal year to sort of guesstimate where we're going to be for this year. So you'll see that that's a very significant increase there. Also in the budget, we have capital acquisitions and improvements, our MSBA payments. We have for at least 15 years offset that with E&D so that we are always charging our 9 communities a total of $192,000. And then you'll also see the $493,000 in bond payments primarily related to our Performing Arts Center. So that brings the total local assessments to $15,232,041. And if you look at the next page, you can see sort of the enrollment by member city or town. If you go down to the very bottom, you'll see that your enrollment this year was up by 10 students. So that your total enrollment is about 4.5% of our student population.
I'm just curious, applications, like how many were there, how many students get it? Not West Bridgewater, just overall.
So last year or this year? So last year there were about just under 1,200 applications, and we accepted 415 students.
Similar this year, I assume.
Yeah. We're at about 1,300 applications. This year I have 31 from West Bridgewater as of today. And West Bridgewater students tend to do very well in the application process, so even though it's a smaller number of applicants, a fairly high percentage do tend to get in. So obviously we have our local assessments of just over $15 million. And you can see there at the bottom of the top chart how West Bridgewater's assessment is broken down between the minimum contribution for foundation aid, the bond payment, transportation, and capital cost, for a total of $1,008,308. And that is an increase of $158,000 over your last year's assessment, again, driven by the increase in, primarily the increase in enrollment. The next page is provided just because, you know, our students, every student that comes to Southeastern, costs about $23,000 to educate. And the amount that each community pays towards that student is really based on the foundation aid formula. So you can see that West Bridgewater's kind of right in the middle. You pay a little more per student than some communities, but less than others.
Yep.
And then the last few pages are just for your information, just demonstrating again that we're operating at net school spending, and there's some more detail in there about your budget and the foundation aid calculation. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't, like I said, I've been lucky enough to be over there a couple of times in the last year. I know students who have graduated, I know students who are in there, and I think, you know, just in general, a student in West Bridgewater has, you know, two great choices to make when it comes to high school. And we're fortunate that you are there and that it is as close as it is. And I don't really have another question. I think I see the young professionals, if you will, coming out of that school, going into, you know, into the trade more than anything. And they're all out and they're all doing well. So, and I'm, you know, I'm happy to see that enrollment keeps climbing.
It is. I mean, I think we're at a place, unless we find a way to add on, where our enrollment's going to start to stabilize a little bit. There's only so much bigger we can get with the space that we have. But yeah, we have good demand for enrollment.
No, I'm going to echo what Jeff said. I see the excitement that students get when they get accepted into the program, and how proud they are of being in that school, and they walk around, you know, heads held high, and then when they graduate, they're proud to graduate there. So thank you for everything you guys are doing over there.
Thank you. We appreciate your support of our school.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Keep it up. I root for you for everything but sports. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I understand. You have to draw the line somewhere.
Yep.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
No,
thank you.
all
Have a good
very
night.
much.
Bye now. Have a good night.
All right. Assuming nobody in the hallways. Next, we got school. Do you want to see who's in the hall?
I did text the
Cheryl.
No, I
Oh, right.
texted the superintendent to see if, told me we're ahead of schedule, more welcome to come in.
Okay.
Is the school here? Okay, good.
Right. Oh, it's nice and cool in here.
We are.
Long time no
We
see.
are.
Oh, me? Sure.
Hello?
Good evening. You can go wherever you want. Well, just as long as you get picked up on the microphone, I think that's fine. Yeah, just push it. You should grab it. Make sure. Yeah, this should be good.
Okay.
Two.
We don't have to go through all those. Oh, there we go, I think that's it. Yep, there.
All right. You all set for us?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All
I'm
right,
sorry.
thank you. No.
I'm trying to keep up with what's on that screen, on this
got
screen.
it. Thank you very much for having us. We're happy to present the school committee budget to you tonight. We did provide the slides in advance. We'll go through them, but if you have any further questions, please just stop me anytime. Then after, at the end, if you have any questions, we'll definitely go into any detail that you need.
Super.
We're a mission-driven school district. We kind of live by our mission, so we're always looking to make sure everything we do is related back to the mission of the West Bridgewater Public Schools. When we create our budget, really, we look at our priorities, we look at our goals, we look at our social emotional needs of our students and the academic needs of our students. It's really the circle that works around everything we do within the district when we're building the budget. We want to make sure it works for everyone and all pieces of the puzzle are put together. We've been fortunate. We're moving in our budget more towards strategic. First few years when I was superintendent, I felt we were more essential. We were getting back to where we needed to. Now we're trying to look ahead and be proactive in terms of getting our needs met. Big thank you to the committee, our committee, and the town and all the boards for their support over the years, supporting our budget. We've made some great strides, and I think hopefully we're showing that within the school system. Just a couple of graphics. Our high needs continue to go up. They did not increase as much this past year as they had in the past, but you'll see over the past 5 years, we've had a pretty dramatic increase in our high needs students. So when we talk about high needs, that's our special education, our EL students, and our low income students have continued to go up. Our population also has increased, although not as dramatically as it will, I think, in the future when the building projects really come into town. They started, we had a plus 25 in our West Bridgewater student population, but only a smaller growth overall. Some decrease in our school choice, along with some additional West Bridgewater students. One of our biggest factors in our budget is our special education. These really meet the needs of our neediest students, and if they are placed outside of the West Bridgewater Public Schools, they're properly placed. They're the place that they need to be. But over 1% of our student population is placed out of district, but it represents about 14% of our overall budget. We've talked about before, but transportation is a huge cost, not only to West Bridgewater, but to other communities. It is not unusual to have a transportation run for a year be $35,000 to up to almost $100,000, depending on where they're going, on the needs of the students. And also you can see the prices or the cost of the different programs, public school programs, collaborative programs, and our non-public private school programs. The good news is last year I came to you saying that the OSD rate was at 14%. It's back down to, I believe, a 5% increase. So we didn't see that dramatic increase in the district placements for the private placements this year. This just shows you a graphic about our school choice population. It is trending down due to the increase in our West Bridgewater population. Unfortunately for our applicants, we had the most applicants ever this year. We had over 220 applicants. And the reality is we're probably not going to be able to open up any elementary grades. Our 6th going into 7 is at 98 students. So there we may be able to add a few, and then at the high school level is where we'll be putting students primarily. We're not planning on opening kindergarten this year because we're only going to 4 sections this year. The census data is a little bit down, so we feel we're confident we can stick with 4 this year. And, but obviously it's a decrease in our school contributions when we accept less students in school choice. This talks about our school contributions. On the right-hand side, about half of our school contributions come from our school choice program. The other half is made up of circuit breaker, which is money we get back from the state once we meet a certain threshold. Our revolving accounts, which are surround care, our athletic revolving, things like that. And then special education grants and programs, we get some additional money. That's money that we're able to put into the budget so the town does not have to assume the whole amount. We are making school contributions that go with what the town does for our overall budget. Just a little bit of information on Chapter 70. Chapter 70 is the main funding source that comes to the town of West Bridgewater. This year we were increased a little bit over $400,000. We continue to go up. Our overall amount we get through Chapter 70 is about $6.9 million. We had a very dramatic increase the year before, about $1.2 million. So we're still above state minimum. State minimum is $30 per student, which for state minimum we'll be talking about an increase of $30,000 to $40,000. So still about 10 times that amount in Chapter 70. This slide just shows you over the past 4 years how our contributions to the school budget are made up of the town contributions in yellow, the school contributions in blue, and then the Chapter 70. It just gives you a little historical data on where those figures are over the past 4 years. Always there are some unexpected expenses, budget busters, move-ins can be huge depending on which grade level and depending on the needs of our students. Once a student moves into West Bridgewater or when they turn through, we become responsible for their education. It has happened in the past. We've had students move in with a placement that is the best placement for them, and we've got to abide by that placement. We still would meet with them, we would still look at their needs, but that is potentially a big increase to our budget.
If I can add real
Sure.
quick, did we have a revolving account set up at one point to handle that stabilization?
Yeah.
Is that still in place?
It
or-
is. It's not much. I think it's around 30,000.
Yeah, I think there's.
I think we had
30 to
60,
40,
and we
yeah.
took out money, or at least we earmarked money for potentially a van.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so the original investment in tow was just under $50,000, and last year we did earmark about $30,000 to go towards a van. It hasn't been spent yet, so the full amount is still there, but it's been earmarked.
Yeah, we continue to look for opportunities for that from collaboratives or other school districts that may be looking to sell off some van. School choice, we are decreasing with our numbers, so we're trending over the next few years, potentially a deficit of up to 200,000, depending on the number of students that we budget for and are able to fit into our schools. Our multilingual learners, our EL students, depending on when they come in and what their level is, we need to service them appropriately with certain time amounts per student depending on their level. And obviously, we've got 3 older elementary school buildings. Hopefully, we're moving through with the building project, but again, we're years away. It's over 250,000 square feet of space that we need to maintain in HVAC systems and so forth. So those are some things that we are always cautious about as we move forward with our budget. Just want to quickly share some positive effects of the positions we've added over the years. Again, very thankful to add these positions. And where we've added, I think we're doing really well. At the middle senior high school, we had an adjustment counselor and a part-time school psychologist. More kids are being sent. Fewer students are being sent out for services, mental health needs. They're waiting less to see people. They're getting more into classrooms. They're running groups. This has been very successful. Our ESL staff, 4 years ago, we had 1.5. We're up to 3.7 staff. We've got a 32% increase in our number of EL students, our multilingual learners. Again, the time that they need to be educated is set. We're properly staffed there. We've added staff, but it's really working and meeting the needs of our students. We've had to add additional classroom teachers. This year, 1 at the Howard School. We've added some at the Roselle to get from 4 to our no longer bubbles, but our standard of 5 classrooms, maintaining a relatively small class size. We've added some separate programs.
Sorry, what is that class size that you're?
We are at most grades around 22 to 23, maybe a little bit, probably 21 to 23 is our average.
Yeah, so at the kindergarten level, you're talking 22 students?
A little bit less this year. We have 5 sections. We have 104 kids, so we're right around 20.
So that's still a pretty big number for...
For kindergarten, it's still a decent number. We did add 12 students in through school choice this year. That's why we're hoping with 4 we can keep that number at or below that number of 20. Our sub-separate programs, we have created programs, and we have seen a decrease in our students in collaborative programs because we've been able to keep them in-house. So we've added staff, which costs us money, but we save money in out-of-district placements. And related services, we've added some OT this year, we've added speech, which is an increase from years past. Our students are being serviced at a higher rate than they have in the past, which is very positive. So ESSER, the federal funding has run out, so it's run dry. When we were getting the funding, we knew that this would happen. So it's a total of $184,000 of funding that we have added through ESSER. Now the two top positions, the Middle Senior High School sub-separate and the Howard were .5s originally, and they went to full-time using ESSER funds. We added a 1.0 ESL teacher and a .5 speech and language pathologist. So again, positions that were absolutely needed. You never like to spend grant money for staff because you know that eventually you want to keep your staff. Hopefully, there's a need for it, and that money goes away. But we needed it, and we're very thankful for the grants. And then some areas of need and that are included in this budget. The Howard School classroom teacher. Next year, we will have 5 sections of grades 4 and grade 6. Grade 5 will still have 4 sections. It's a potential add for next year. Fingers crossed we don't get a lot of kids coming into that grade next year. The elementary school adjustment counselor was paid for under a grant this year, a behavioral health grant, but it's definitely needed in the elementary schools. We're able to add .1 to speech and language to go from 2.5 to 3 days a week. A .4 occupational therapist will be 2 days a week. A key position for us because we have only one OT in the whole district. This .4 will allow us to bring in someone 2 days a week that can do testing and see students. So very beneficial because it will decrease the caseload of the current OT. And we currently have we have 2.5 preschool teachers. We're looking at a .5 preschool teacher. People have a sub-separate preschool program, which is needed by numbers, and it's dictated by the state that we have to do that. So that equals about $207,000. And we do have some anticipated needs for the future. Again, additional classroom teachers. Right now, there is no special education coordinator. We have our director of student services, and we have our classroom teachers. And there's no one in between. Most districts have one or more coordinators that work in between, work with the staff, but they can also see students. A future need for us. And maybe some incremental increase to our related services, increase our speech and language up from .6 to maybe .8 next year, things like that. So the needs aren't as great as they have been because we've been able to add some very good staff over the years. This just shows you where our increases come from, what makes up our overall increase of 6.93%. Just breaks it down by the staffing we've added, teaching services, special education, and the ESSER CLIF, and also the school choice decrease in the number of students we added. And this just shows you the overall school budget, which is just over $20 million. It shows the school contributions, and then again shows the increase. We increased again 6.93%. Last year we were at 7.78%. If you take out the ESSER and the school choice, which is $209,000, then it's a 5.66% increase. We hope to be trending in the right direction. We're trending from 7.78 to 6.93, removing, although it's still all there, but we removed the ESSER, we're down to 5.66%. That just shows you the overall budget lines which you have, and we're certainly open for any questions you may have.
I have, we talked briefly, but to the committee, we talked yesterday, but my concern is the 7.78 last year, the 6.93 this year. The 7.78 last year contributed, was not the sole purpose, was not the sole reason. but contributed to an average tax increase, and I'm rounding numbers as we do this, but, to $500 per, 500,000, the assessed value, I think, was $450,000, $500,000. This year, with the increase, I can't give you math, but I can't anticipate it to be less, if not possibly more, without the level of state funding that was present last year. So we're looking at another increase, just call it $500. And again, this is just estimated numbers. But we're doing that. I don't think the town can sustain that. So if we truly are going to slow down, I think we need to. And I think, A, for the expense that it is to the taxpayer, and B, to come back, to continue to increase like this in theory, and, in 4 years, you've increased $2,000 to the median-sized house in town, and then to come back and look for money for a school that could be another $1,000 to $1,500. All of a sudden, it's a very significant tax increase to be at $3,000, $3,500. Whenever the school, 4 or 5 years from now, if not longer. But so my biggest concern is we can't keep moving. We can't keep staying in the 7s and 8s. And I support the need to reduce school choice, and I understand that's going to cost. It looks like it's I had numbers on the screen, but $155,000 1 year, could be $165,000 the next year to reduce. And I get that, and that's something we lived with and we benefited from greatly, and now you got to wean off it, and we've got to make adjustments for that. But I'm just particularly concerned that that supporting this year over year over year for me isn't a possibility. I understand the 5% in here, in terms of a sort of a net, for lack of a better, is in the right direction, and I'm happy with that, and the ESSER funds is a one-time adjustment and it goes. But I can't, I can't sit here and say I'm going to endlessly support 7%, 8%. The town needs other things too, and I'm not trying to go, but in my mind there's a max that we can increase somebody's taxes on an annual basis and still provide fire and DPW and every other service that needs.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, Jeff, this group that's here does not control the size and the increase of what's happening in town and the population of the students, nor do they control the salary or the number of teachers they need. And as I look at this, a lot of it, some of it is to do with salary increases on some of these budget lines. So I do understand. I see where you're coming from, and I also see where the school does need, where their increases are also coming from.
I appreciate the perspective, and I think we are hopefully trending in that direction. I think we have been fortunate to add positions over the years, and we're thankful for it, and they've been needed. I think we'll get to a point where we're adding these positions, and then they're in there, and then it's more the maintenance phase of maintaining, and then say, oh, something pops up over here, we got to address that. But
and I understand, to Mike's point, some of it's adding because there's more students that should need more tax revenue, new houses, that kind of stuff. So some of that will fall in place. It's just, I'm going back to the calculation of how much the taxpayer gets hit as a whole, not just because of the school, to be clear, but as a whole, what they get hit on an annual basis. It was $500 last year. We don't really know where it's going to go this coming year, but safe to assume it's probably somewhere around there, and to repeat that will be difficult.
I think you've raised some pretty good concerns there. But one metric that you can check on that will give you an idea of the way the state views our district is that our Chapter 70 funding has increased more than most other districts in the state. That they recognize that our needs are changing at a different rate than other towns are. So it's not an increase each year that we expect to continue, but it is something that's changed recently, and the Chapter 70 funding really shows that. The huge increase last year, we're about 1.5 times the average increase this year in Chapter 70 funding. So it shows that we really do have some needs that other towns may not necessarily be dealing with. So it's not an increase that we want to continue, but for right now it seems like we do need a little bit more.
Changes, requirements from the state, like added.
I mean, Special ed
Yeah.
needs for sure, and I think a lot of it is trying to keep students in who have some separate programs. I think it's beneficial to our students to keep them in district. Our multilingual learners, those are requirements for timing. And again, to a point, we talked about the class size, trying to maintain, good, reasonable class sizes.
Yeah, and I still personally think they're pretty large, considering. I personally think they're pretty large, and it makes things a little bit more difficult.
But to answer your question too, if you really look at the positions that have been added over the years, the bulk, aside from classroom teachers, to keep those numbers appropriate, are in special ed. So to the point of the three in front of me, those are requirements, they're federal requirements. We have to meet these IEP needs, and so we need the staffing to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I want to make it very clear, we're all on the same side. We're all on the same side. We want to see the best for both the students, the educators, and the residents as well of the town. So everybody's on the same side.
But, we know we're a department of the town.
Yeah.
We want to work with the town to give our kids and our families the best education possible, but also be financially responsible.
Yeah. So, I get
Do
Kathy.
you have any questions?
I have a more of a, I don't want to say procedural question, but just a question on where the school contribution numbers, I see them dropped
Yep.
into the budget, but
Yep.
are they, like, what's, I guess,
What's the makeup?
or what's the logic, or it makes it hard, not that it, but it just makes it hard to, for me to understand what the true increase is on that, right?
So, well, the true increase is budget to budget from the town, what we ask you for, right?
Mhm.
What we totally expect to spend this year includes the school contribution, so we're looking at a $20.2 million budget to run the school department appropriately. Of that, we're only looking to you to fund $17.6 million. So that's how it plays in.
Yeah, I was just, well, sorry.
No, I know.
As I go back and forth. Like, the first budget that popped up was the 3910, right? And like the very first line item, collaborative tuition, the
Right.
town contribution shows down 132,000, but the school contribution is at 100, right?
No, the town is up 130,000. If you look at
Backwards.
line 3910,
Yep.
the town contribution last year was about 1.5 million, and we're looking at 1.6,300,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, the very first line, just the collaborative tuition.
Oh, you're in the.
I'm in the, I'm
detail.
sorry, I'm in the
Oh, okay.
detail.
Yeah, so the collaborative tuition actually decreased $132,000. A lot of that is due to the fact that we were able to add the sub-separate classroom and
Okay.
keep kids in, so we did not need to pay as much tuition out for collaborative learning.
And
And
again,
then the additional piece is that last year, the school contribution was 370,000 on that line.
okay,
This year, we added another 100,000, really in the non-public tuition, because that increased
The increase.
significantly. So it is difficult, if you're not looking at last year's as well, to understand
What the
school
true-
contribution fluctuates, where we can apply it, the amount of money we get from grants, revolving, the amount of school choice. It does tend to go on different lines, although I have tried to be pretty consistent in the lines I apply it to.
okay. I'll look at last year's. That was kind of my point, like, it's hard to see.
It's always that way, but, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, I mean, looking at the increases, there was nothing, just listening through the
Small
lines.
dollars.
Yeah,
Small dollars until you get down to really the special education services.
the McKinney-Vento, was state never funded that?
They fund very little of that, if any, and that's always a complete guess on McKinney-Vento, because you just don't know how many homeless children are going to be in your district each year.
Mhm. I'm just scrolling through my notes, but I think, my bigger concern was the one that was expressed, just in terms of,
Right.
being able to do that, and being able to get a new school in the process, and not driving everybody out of their homes. It's a hard balance to strive for. And this is still a high number, I get it. I'm not saying I'm not supporting it, but it's a high number, and if it comes back next year, I'm not making any statements, but it's going to be harder to support. I don't want to make it sound threatening by any means, but.
No, we understand. We understand, and we'll continue to, fight for the needs of our kids, but also, work to be as responsible fiscally as possible.
Your budget includes a $250 for school choice, which is 10 less year over year. So has the school committee already voted on that and supported that, or is that just part of the budget at this point?
It's part of our budget, so in essence, yes.
Okay, all right.
We'll see if we get to that number.
No, I understand.
We do have, like I said, room at the high school, less so at the elementary.
Do you have an obligation for siblings, or are they just top of the
They do
list?
have preference.
Preference,
But
okay.
not an obligation to add them unless we open the space.
Okay.
And next year, I'll be honest, when we do put out school choice, when you open it for the district, but then you select the different grade levels. I think if we're in a position where we're not gonna be able to add elementary, then we'll probably make that very clear. We weren't 100% sure when we opened it this year, but I think just for full disclosure and transparency with other families from our district, we don't wanna get their hopes up. If they're applying, we'll go through the process if we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, 'cause that could be 2 transportation routes for a family to get 2 kids to school.
I mean, we have, last year we did that a couple at the elementary level. I think we had total 8 or 9 from grades 1 to 6, but they were all similar.
Anything else? If you want to stick around to vote on the cover of the, you could use some help. I'm looking at, the pictures came up next as I was scrolling, and I don't want to pick one from the other.
Thank you all.
No, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Find my place. Should we just read Cheryl's?
Sure. I texted her, I've not received a message back, so.
Okay.
If you want to just go.
I gotta scroll back up to get
What
it.
number are we at?
We're jumping back up to Community Preservation
Page
Act.
24.
Page 24.
I like the little page numbers here, by the way. Thank you very much.
She does a good job with that.
Great job. The best.
So CPC is an additional tranche of tax dollars that comes in above and beyond the traditional tax bill. That was approved at town meeting about 12 to 13 years ago. And so they receive somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 a year based on the taxes and also the revenue that is provided from the Registry of Deeds. So with that said, they are only looking to fund 2 expenditures this year. One is $5,000 for, I assume it's probably, Mike, it's probably your committee that probably requested this through the Veterans Committee. But this is to allow $5,000 to put the veteran plaques on the gravestones of all the veterans. And not every single gravestone is actually marked, so that's why they have to do some research as well. Then in addition to that is that we are under a state requirement that we have to re-engineer our fish ladder at War Memorial Park on the town river. The positive to this, and Tracy alluded to this at her last meeting when she said that she secured $350,000 to $400,000 of grants, is that she secured about $280,000. About $280,000 of grants for the state towards this. So we had to come up with it's either a 10 or a 15% match. So we're going to come up with $84,000 to a CPC, and the state will pay the difference. So those are the only 2 that they're looking to fund. You will see that as of right now, is that there is still $996 left in the open space we call this bucket, because the money can't be spent for any purpose. When it comes in, it can only be spent in 3 different categories, and then there is a general area that the difference will roll over into. So you can see that about $1,000 left over in open space, $34,000 left in historic, and $128,000 left in housing. So that's her report. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
I'm good at this point. All right. additional budgets.
So if you're okay, then I'm gonna go through all the budgets, but with your permission, I would like to skip the Board of Selectmen's budget for a moment and do the others fairly quick. So the moderator budget, budget 1140, it will be level funded, meaning it'll be the same budget request year over year, and that's just under $800. It's a small budget. The Finance Committee will level fund that at $3,100. The Finance Committee Reserve, we will level fund that one at $67,000. Insurances, we're looking at about a 5% increase in that. Sealer and weights, right now you'll see that it's level funded. However, I am going to add 3% to 5111. You'll normally vote on that in either April or May, but we've been giving a 3% raise to all of our officials. And so David Moore, who is our appointed person, he should be receiving the same raise commensurate with everybody else. Historical Commission is being level funded at $1,775. And then benefits is one of our largest budgets in town. You'll see it's about a 6% increase. That is really driven by the contributory retirement that is funded through Plymouth, that is through the county. We have no discretion over that. The same with health insurance. You'll see we're only going up 4.5%. Pretty small increase for health. I think we do a pretty good job trying to control that line. And then obviously with payroll going up, you have a Medicare increase as well. Other than that, we're not looking to make any other adjustments. Our workers' comp has been very, very low over the last handful of years. So with that said, we're looking to level fund it. So the overall budget is up 6%, but really driven by a retirement line that we have no control over. If you have any questions about those, I'll answer them, and if not, I'll talk to you about the Board of Selectmen budget. Good. So if you don't mind going to that. So on the Board of Selectmen budget, there aren't a lot of increases in here. There is, however, there's two items that I need to discuss. One is that in 5111 appointed official, which is my salary. It's embarrassing to say this, and I want to make sure that it's caught on camera. But there was an error in last year's meeting. We caught it a couple of weeks ago when we were putting the budget together. My salary this year was $170. It says $165. I have no idea where that number came from. It was already approved before town meeting, and so I'm receiving a 3% increase like everybody else. So it looks like it's a larger increase. It's just a 100% error. It's clearly on my part. I apologize that it was made. I have no idea where that number came from. Just mistakes happen. So quite frankly, the entire budget should have only been up 2.49% instead of 3.71, but I'm capturing in here exactly what was approved last year, so that way, it's not a true reflection on reality, but it's a true reflection of what was approved year over year. I've already discussed this with the chair of the Finance Committee. I spoke to her earlier in the week when it was disclosed, so I'll disclose it at the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow as well. I'll leave it to them as to what they want to do. The town meeting approved FY24 line is not voted on. It's only the FY25 line. So if they want to show a real year-on-year comparison, God bless you. If they want to show a real year-on-year comparison, we'll change that number. If they want to keep it the way they want to keep it, it's entirely up to them, since it's the Finance Committee's handbook that goes to town meeting. But again, I want to disclose the error, and again, apologize for it. The second item that I would like to make a recommendation is on 5730 dues and meetings. To me, this is pretty exciting because this is to allow both myself, our staff, and the selectmen to be able to go to meetings and for all of our professional development. And the reason I'm excited is because in years past, although we always had really good board members, they didn't always take advantage of going to some of those meetings. And both of you took advantage of that in January. And I think both of you got some benefits out of it. Yeah. And obviously we'll have a third person coming on. And so we have, you can see we've already spent $3,100 through December. And that did not include, because the conference was in January, that has not covered the cost yet of that. So my personal opinion and my recommendation is that I would like to increase that line by at least $1,500. because I want to make sure all three of you, or two of you plus the third, have an opportunity to continue to go to those meetings in the future. We've not spent this entire line in the past because board members haven't always taken advantage of it, but I think it's a good idea that we are, and so I'd like to increase that line, but I didn't want to do it without talking to you first, since it's really your budget, before I bring it to Finance Committee.
No, on Facebook, of course, when Marcy announced she was running, there was a comment in your piece from somebody saying, "Good, the board needs some." I'm going to probably quote it wrong, but paraphrase it anyhow. Needs some fresh people. Yeah, I was trying not to. Fresh blood. And I thought about it, and honestly, we've turned 3 seats in 1 year. I guess it can't get much fresher than that. But with that, attending the conference in January, well, first let me back up and say, with David's leadership, I think this board's continued to run well with his depth of knowledge and being able to provide that and share that with us. But in addition, Mike and I were able to attend a conference in January, the state conference, and many different topics, and we kind of went and divide and conquer. I don't think we're in the same room at the same time, but very informational, very informative, as we are all young at this. Last time I probably get to call myself young, but as we're all young at this, I think there's value in that, and I think that value will seep back into the town in more than the dollar amount that we would pay. So,
I agree. The ability to network with other towns and people doing the same thing, and meeting them face to face was pretty awesome. So I'd have to agree that I think that the $1,500 is a small amount of money to pay in order to get the experience that we received. So yes.
Thank you. So with your permission, then what I will do is I will amend this budget to add the $1,500. I will be presenting it to the Finance Committee tomorrow night, and I will bring along those thoughts.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And then capital budget report. So normally we present the capital budget report to you in April, and at that time you would then vote to place these on the warrant. But because this is the first time that you're seeing a capital budget report as selectmen, I thought it was wise that we just voted on it yesterday. Jeff is on that committee, I'm on that committee, and so I thought it would be wise that I would bring it to this meeting. There is no vote required. All I'm doing is I'm providing you information, so that way in 2 weeks you're not seeing it for the first time when you have to actually take a vote. And so real quickly, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. And again, Jeff was on that committee, so he is well versed on these items as well, is that the town clerk will be looking for a digital sign, which quite frankly really came more out of this board, because we need to do a better job of communicating. And so the thought process is to put a digital sign directly in front of the town hall, like many other municipal buildings have, not just in this town, but throughout the state. So that way if there's an election, or there's an important meeting, or something else that we want to be able to communicate, we can do it right here at the town hall. The DPW is looking for a handful of items, all of them that are needed. Again, I will answer any questions about those that you may have. The fire department will be looking for 2 items. The police department, this is to answer your question from earlier, Mike. So in the operational budgets, year over year, we just fund operations, and then any one-time expenses that are capital projects are through this process. So that's why you didn't see a cruiser in his budget. You'll see it here.
Noted. I knew I had saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, where's this cruiser?
The Council on Aging, all of their flooring in the main space and in the hallways, they're looking to replace the existing tile, which is old, some of it is cracked, and as you know, when tile gets wet, it gets slippery. So they'll be looking to replace this with vinyl flooring, which they had done in the conference room they have out back, so it'll all match, and again, they did a nice job on that. The water department's looking for 4 items. One of the, obviously the big item, is that they have to replace it or add or create an iron and manganese water treatment plant. They are hoping to be able to secure some, if not most, of that funding through the state revolving fund. However, you do have to get financing in advance to be able to at least start the project and then attempt to try to get any grants in return. And the school will be looking for 2 items as well. So from the total on the town side, you're looking at a little over $1 million. And on the water side, you're looking at obviously $10 million $700. Almost all of that is from that water treatment plant. On the town side, we'd be looking to take that money out of free cash, meaning that there would be no borrowing in this. When I came here 11 years ago, we used to borrow for everything. Literally, you bought a police car, you borrowed on that. So you were paying interest on it, which is really just a waste of money. So we've been able to structure our budgets so that way we're able to pay cash, so there is no impact on the tax rate. This does not increase taxes 1 penny, and we'll be able to pay cash and not incur debt. The water department, for 3 out of their 4 items, would be looking to pay cash as well. So we'll have no impact on the water rates or have any interest on those. Obviously, the large one, they don't have $10 million extra to be able to do that with. Again, I'll take any questions that you have. And Jeff, if I missed anything, I apologize.
So with the exception of the water, that big ticket, with the exception of the water, everything else is gonna, we're not gonna have it required to take out a loan or anything. We already have the funds for that.
That is correct. But that'll be your decision to make as a recommendation to town meeting when you place it on the warrant. Right now, the Capital Budget Committee approved it under those terms. I'm going to go over in my report where we are in the capital, or where we are in the budget process. But skipping ahead a little bit, I will present to you a balanced budget. Now all budgets have come in. I'll present to you a balanced budget, and my mantra since I have been here is to pay cash for as much as we possibly can. So I foresee that I'll be making that recommendation to you at your next meeting. But I also want to make sure that you're clear, Mike, it is not my decision, it's your decision, because you will vote on it at your next meeting, and then obviously it has to go to town meeting, and they have to agree. But most people would prefer to pay cash than to borrow and incur additional costs.
Do we currently, just looking at the DPW ticket, do we currently have a street sweeper?
We do. It is 21 years old. It's rusted pretty. It's used. Its life is over, and so we do have one. We use it, but obviously it's in tough shape at this point. 22 years old.
Is there any benefit on voting on this now as opposed to next week? Or next meeting, excuse me?
There's no benefit.
Okay.
There's no benefit.
I'm good.
Anything else?
You agree? Yeah.
Super.
Okay.
Mike, it's time to talk pictures.
I couldn't submit one. Oh, yeah, I couldn't submit a picture. Nobody asked me for pictures. No, I'm just joking.
Look, so by law, by state law, and by our town bylaw, which mirrors state law, the Board of Selectmen is required to turn in a report to town meeting every single year, which is that little handbook. Many years ago, everybody read that. That would literally be the Bible in a municipality. Nobody reads it anymore. But it's still a legal requirement. We have to do it. And so this town has a culture of always placing a picture on the front. And the Board of Selectmen, because they're required by law to put it out, you vote on the picture. So we've always provide a handful of options. However, because it's your book and it's your vote, if you had something else that you want to do, you're more than welcome to do so.
They all have snow in them. I know. They're all cold pictures. They're beautiful pictures.
Does the other one have?
I just want to think warm.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. No, yeah.
You have a preference?
I'm just going to show you a picture, and then we can pick one of these. It's fine. It's a lot of work to find that one right now. You can
So-
pick one of these.
What I can propose to you is this. Are you aware, we have time, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
if anyone has any other options, Mike, certainly.
So if you like one of these, it would help us because quite frankly, over the next 30 days, we're in turbo mode. Everything has to get printed, done, voted on. It's the next 30 days is the toughest 30 days in municipal government for all of us. If you like one of these, please vote on it, and then we will be able to forward it to the printer. If you believe that there's something else that you would like, or you have any other thoughts, or maybe you don't even like these, it's your book, we can table this and we can present it at your next meeting.
Would you like to submit one of those?
I can, but I don't know if you want to ready to make a decision right now based on that or this.
I could certainly go, I think the first picture would work for me. But if you're strong about that, those also speak to the town, maybe a little more. Yeah, that one or the first one. Do we need to put it in a packet for next week to vote on it?
Yes, we will. if
It
it's
needs to
okay.
be on a packet.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, because that's what I was.
Does that really
so if
mess you
that's-
up on the printer?
No, we'll be okay.
Would, yeah, that won't
It's-
mess it up if we wait till
No,
next week.
we'll be okay. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Take
Nothing
a look.
against these pictures, but that's farming, it's tractor, color, town.
Okay.
Not that War Memorial Park isn't as well, but
No, it's your book. So what we can do then is I will take no action on this evening. Mike, I would ask you to forward that picture to Christine. We'll put it in the packet next week for the next meeting, and then we'll vote on it at that time.
super.
Sorry.
No, you're okay.
All right.
So the next item, you've not done this before. So the next item, well, again, we have a culture in town that we dedicate that annual town book or report to somebody or somebodies that has passed away during the preceding year that either served for the town or had some type of capacity serving the town. So what the town clerk does is that she takes her 2023 deaths and she takes all the people who have either served on committees or were noteworthy in town, because again, what they had done for the town, and they provide these names. And then usually you can pick one or two or all or multiple, whatever you choose to do. And you'll see on the inside of that book, there is a dedication to last year's. So again, because we will not be voting on the picture this evening, we'll do that next meeting. If you want to make a decision, you can. But at the same time, if you want to just take some thought, we can place this on the next meeting's agenda as well. And then you'll take a vote as to who you want to be able to dedicate the booklet to.
Yes, I know nobody on this list, unfortunately. So my recommendation too would be, I know there are people that watch this. And if anybody can tell me anything about any of the people that are listed here, I'd be happy to hear, either through an email or just communication with the selectman's office. Otherwise, I'm picking blind, which I prefer not to do.
I think differently. I think we should, I don't think it's a huge list, and I think that I'd like to see all these people's names in the book. Just out of respect for.
All right. We can do that. We can do that right now.
Fine.
Sure.
You need a motion?
Please.
I make a motion for the 2023, what's the book called?
Annual town.
For the annual town report, I make a motion for the annual town report to include the names of all the notable deaths for 2023 that are presented.
I second and vote in favor.
Had a tongue twister, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All right, moving along. Do you need a second date? You're good. The vote to award Surrey DPW contracts from March 1st, 2024 through February 28th, 2025.
So again, this is part of our, we're part of 27 towns. We do municipal bidding in bulk, so we can drive down the price. I'm the vice chair of that organization. We meet once a month, and then we bid everything out during the course of the year. So I would be looking to the board to be able to, I'm looking for a vote to award the service contracts to these DPW vendors that bid as presented.
I have no questions.
Okay, I make a motion to award the Surge DPW service contracts from March 1st, 2024 to February 28th, 2025 as presented.
I second that and vote in favor. All right, moving along, vote on New England Novelties transient vendor application, March 30th, 2024 to March 31st, 2024. Another for April 5th, 2024 through April 8th, 2024, and one additional for May 11th, 2024 through May 12th, 2024.
So a handful of years ago, the Board of Selectmen created a transient vendor application and process. And that before that, people would literally just show up and sell flowers or sell some other type of little spinners, and there was no regulation. And quite frankly, part of the challenge was that if somebody is selling flowers on a street corner singing Mother's Day, that's great because we all sometimes take advantage of it. But there's a florist shop right down the street that is paying taxes and is trying to sell flowers as well. So the selectmen, I thought, showed some leadership, a lot of leadership, where they tried to create an opportunity so that way a transient vendor can come in no more than 6 times per year. They do pay a fee to the office. They're able to set up. They get pre-approved through the police department, so we know it's in a safe spot, and then they get approved by this board as well. And New England Novelty comes in every single year. They're well-versed with the rules. They always follow the process. They pay their fee, and so this is their annual request.
Where do they set up?
They normally, I believe, is this set up over in front of
Yeah,
the center of town
It's
district?
the V in the center of town.
Correct.
there.
So they're directly across from CVS in that parking lot area where the ATM machine is.
Super. I have no issues.
I have no issues. I make a motion to, you need a motion here, right?
Yeah, so the motion would be just to approve the New England Novelties transient vendor application as presented.
I make a motion to approve the New England Novelties transient vendor application as presented.
And I second vote in favor. Moving along, looking to approve the meeting minutes of February 7th and February 21st.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 7th and 2024.
And I second vote in favor. And then next is accept the meeting minutes for March 7th for review.
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for March 7th, 2024 for review.
And I second and vote in favor. Next to be communication reports from boards, commissions, and town officials. And in this, we've got several bylaw study committee proposed zoning amendments.
Yep, so first I want to say thank you to Tracy. One of the best hires we've had, because not only is she an excellent person in her role, when we created this bylaw study committee a handful of years ago because we were looking for advice to the board so that way they could vet requests that come in. Some are legitimate, some aren't always legitimate, but it also gives residents an opportunity to have somewhere to go. A handful of years ago, a resident was complaining, saying, I want somewhere to go to be able to propose a bylaw or talk to them. And so that was part of why we created this in response. And now Tracy has been able to professionalize this process, and will continue to professionalize it moving forward. So there are 2 different types of bylaws. There are general bylaws that require 50% approval at town meeting. They basically refer to governance of how your town is managed and what rules and regulations the town is run by and managed by that is not already set through statute or through statutory boards such as the Board of Selectmen. You then have zoning amendment bylaws where you can put a business, where you can put your home, what size some of those areas will be. And those are usually regulated through permit approvals through either the building inspector, the planning board, or the zoning board of appeals. And right now, those will require 2/3 approval at town meeting. It's a higher threshold because it's meant originally to allow towns to have more self-determination as to how they want their town to look. I say right now because based on the current housing crisis that the governor administration is consistently discussing, there is legislation pending that will change future zoning to only be a majority vote, thereby allowing zoning to be changed easier. That is not passed yet. I'm giving you a heads up that most likely we'll see that in future town meetings. So if it's okay, I think the easiest and best thing for me to do is to take this one by one, and then I will ask for a couple of votes at the end. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. So first, we'll look at the general bylaws. So Article 1 is mobile food vendors and trucks. Currently, we have had, or in the past handful of years, we have had people petition the town wanting to be able to sell food out of a truck. That is not an allowed use. Our bylaws are written that if something is silent, it is not allowed by right, meaning that you are not permitted for it. So if somebody wanted to come in today, and I'll make up a silly thing, but if somebody came in today and they said, I want to put a flying car manufacturing plant, it is nowhere mentioned in our bylaws, therefore it is not an allowed use. This is not mentioned in our current bylaws. So passage of this will allow mobile food trucks to be an allowed use in the town moving forward. The second one is in reference to tenant storage and a mobile home park. Right now, our current sheds that are allowed as an accessory unit is 5 feet by 8 feet, and they're looking to expand the size to allow for more storage. Next page. Now we'll move into zoning bylaws. So the first one is a contractor storage yards. One of the frustrations of many of our residents and the source of a lot of the complaints is that our contractor storage yards are currently allowed in all zoning. So anybody who lives in a residential area can wake up the next day and have a commercial contractor's yard right next to them. And so that's been the source of most of the complaints. So what this will do is that this will limit it, will not be allowed in residential areas. Number 4 is in reference to signs in the town center and digital messaging boards in general. I'm going to look, I want to talk about this a little bit more in detail, so I'm going to skip it if it's okay. Mixed use, we do not allow right now in our business area and also in our town center district for somebody to have a business on the bottom and an apartment on top. Very common in more like city center areas. We don't have a traditional walking center. However, it will allow people to be able to make better use of their buildings and to be able to have a commercial entity on the bottom and a residential one on top. My opinion doesn't matter in any of this. This is the only one here, quite frankly, that I'm a little bit concerned about. And the reason being is because we will field the complaints. I worked in another town that was much larger that did allow this, and somebody moves in the bottom is a barber shop that is open 7 to 5, cuts hair, not a big deal. 3 years later, the barber shop moves out, and a bar moves in. And now it's 11 o'clock at night, you can't sleep. That's an allowed use under mixed use. And now that person that is calling us, or calling the police, saying to quiet it down, well, it's hard to quiet down a bar. So again, I understand the premise behind it, not necessarily against it, but please understand that that is going to create some future headaches and problems. Accessory dwelling units, or ADUs for short, this again is being pushed really hard by the administration. The governor's administration is the one I'm referring to. And the reason being is because we are seeing our senior citizens live longer. And there's not enough nursing home, and I could personally attest, they're not all fantastic. So this will allow single-family homes, by right, to be able to add an accessory dwelling unit for an in-law apartment onto their current building. There is limitations, no more than 900 square feet. It's not to be rented out. It's not meant to be able to make future apartment rental income. But it is to provide flexibility so that way if you want to have family members be able to move in, there is additional space there. That is not allowed right now, and that's what they're looking to amend.
It's not allowed right for what?
To add a single family, to add an accessory dwelling such an in-law apartment.
Without going through like zoning
That is
and
correct,
going through
yeah.
a big headache, right?
That is correct. And then the Water Resource Protection District, we have something funky in our bylaws that have, for the most part, not been an issue until recently. So if you need to get a special permit, you almost always go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. If you need a permit in the Water Resource District, you go to the Planning Board. The intent of the original language was, you need a special permit, you go to the Zoning Board. If it's in the Water Resource District, you go to the Planning Board, ZBA Planning Board. It's come to our attention because we tried to permit a business, and legal looked at it, and it doesn't necessarily say what we want it to say. So right now, if somebody wants to do, by special permit, a business in the Water Resource District area, they have to get an approval at the ZBA and the planning board. It's definitely not efficient. And it also means that one board could have veto power over the other, which is really not fair to the applicant, who might spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in engineering costs, please the ZBA, and the planning board might want something entirely different, and they won't know it until they get to that level. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to try to clarify this, that it'll be consolidated all just to the planning board if it's in the Water Resource District. A couple of other items. These were not recommended from the Bylaw Study Committee. Jeff and the Board of Selectmen had proposed that we would change our current zoning, or our current conforming lot for single-family home, which is at 30,000 square feet, to change it, to amend it to allow for 1 acre. They did not approve that. They did not recommend it, I should say. They did not recommend it. And one of their concerns was that the multi-dwelling, which is 60,000, would be too close to the single-family dwelling. So I think that one of the ways that we could fix that and address that is that right now the same percentages of 30,000 square feet for a single family and 60,000 square feet for a multi-dwelling, you could amend to 1 acre and 2 acres. Clearly the town has a culture that believes that we should use that same difference between one to the other. So I think if we make that to 1 acre and 2 acres, then it would fit in the culture of this town, assuming that you're in favor of that. There was also a request that was going to mandate curbside trash and recycling. Again, I've placed it in there. If you have questions, we can look at it, but it was not a recommendation from them. And the last was a proposal that going forward that special permits were not going to be needed, and people would be able to do most of their items as by right versus going through a permitting process. I can tell you that I think that our founding fathers would be pretty frustrated that we have special permits, that if you have land, you should just be able to do what you want to do. But we recognize now that there are impacts on our neighbors, there are impacts around us, and that we should make sure that even some of the basics are looked at. For example, do you have enough parking? Do you have an entrance and an egress? You know, some silly things that we all take for granted now that 30, 40, 50 years ago, or really 50 years ago and more, never existed. So to discontinue all special permits really would be in the flavor of today's environment. So they did not recommend those. So I will answer any questions that you have on these, and then the board, on anything that you want to see move forward, you would then take a vote to forward zoning bylaw requests to the planning board, because by Mass General Law, they must then have a public hearing, they must vote on it, and then they will opine on it as the planning board or the regulatory board for zoning at town meeting. You ultimately will see these back on your agenda in the future, because you have to take a vote to place them on the warrant. If the planning board does or does not recommend, if the bylaw study committee does or does not recommend, those are all basically advisory to the board, but it is your decision and your exclusive decision to be able to place it on the warrant for the town to be able to vote on, minus a couple of exceptions. And if okay, I can answer any of those questions, because I know I threw a lot at you. I can answer any of those questions and then move on to the town center district sign, or I can just move on to that now. It's whatever the board prefers.
You're looking for a vote on this today?
I will be eventually, yes. And again, your vote will not to be placed it on the warrant, and your vote is not to say I like it or I dislike it. When it comes to zoning, it will only be a vote to go to the planning board, so that way they can review it. Now, in reality, if the two of you hate something that's up there, like all those ones that have been you say, hey, I don't want to do anything with the Water Resource Protection Overlay District. I don't like it. I don't want to make any changes. You could choose not to vote to send to the planning board, and unless the planning board or a citizen's petition overrides you, That one dies.
So, going through what you spoke, I am still committed to pushing the acre through. I can only speak for myself and what Mike thinks.
Agreed.
Just doing some math, we went from what, 3/4 of an acre to an acre, right? So taking that same math, taking the 60,000 square feet for the multi-unit dwelling up to 75,000 square feet is the same percentage. Feel free to check my math, but I believe it to be accurate. And, so I would like to pass that forward. I don't have the mixed use. Bad analogy here, but the people that move into Fenway Park and complain about the noise. Well, Fenway Park's been there longer than anybody's been alive.
Correct.
So I don't have sympathy for people there that complain about the noise. The mixed use, the concern I have is if somebody's living somewhere now and we put commercial below them, and they've been there for a long time, then I'm not in favor of that, right? They didn't choose to move into, they were already in that spot before, we'll just say the noise came. And when I say noise, it can be trucks backing up for dumpsters. There's a lot of different things like that.
But I think this is for commercial buildings that are currently in existence that have the space above them.
Could be either way.
Could be either way. So they don't have it, or they.
No, if this, as I understand it, is that if this article were to pass, if you had a business unit right now, they would have the flexibility to go through the permitting process and add a residential unit above, and then be able to use as a residential unit in the future. Right now, we do not allow.
So it's already a business, so the people moving in there know that there's businesses underneath them.
That it would be correct, yes. But for example, I won't name any names, but we have a resident who used to live next to a gym that closed, and then that gym turned into a much different type of business afterwards that had different impacts than what the gym had.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously has created some complications there. So that's a real world example, but you are correct, is that if you move into an apartment, regardless of whether it's a barber shop or a bar, you do know that sooner or later things change. That entity may become something of a different commercial entity.
And those are rental units above?
It just says,
Or would
it
they
just
be-
says residential, but I would assume there would be rental, but again,
Yeah.
we could look at this from a very positive standpoint. I could be the barber and choose to live upstairs. I could be the bar owner and now choose to live upstairs.
You know, I'm just thinking if it's like for like I'm just thinking out loud, right? Because it could be a rental unit or they could sell it as a condo, right?
Mhm.
Does it give them the option to do both of those?
I don't know it in that in-depth, but I don't see any reason why not, because again, I think it's just defining that you can have residential and commercial in the same footprint.
At the end of the day, I think I'm okay with it, and I think, articles like this are best presented to the town, and the town votes, and it goes from there, so. If I would think it would be our obligation if something was outrageous to stop it, not waste time at town meeting, but I don't see anything particularly outrageous, other than, like I said, we need to talk about the digital message board, because in one breath we said we wanted to put a sign out front, and in the next breath we said we didn't want any signs in this area, so.
Correct.
But with everything else, with those changes to the single-family dwelling, that's fine. And I don't feel the need to move forward the curbside or the letter requesting special permits.
All right, so why don't we do this? Could you do me a favor? Can you just move to the actual language for the town center district? I think it's two more. There it is. So you'll see in principal use, I don't know what page.
119.
Okay. So you'll see in digital, under principal use digital message boards, GRF stands for General Residential and Farming. That's a combined residential zoning in West Bridgewater. And then you'll see at the far end is TC, which is Town Center District, which the town hall falls into. So right now, an SA means special permit, normally through the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you can see in this proposal right here, it would be proposed that it would be not allowed if this amendment were to be passed at town meeting in either the residential area or the town center district. I think most people would agree that they probably don't want a digital board in a residential area, so that one seems a little little straightforward and simple. The complication is that during capital budget, we talked about it's important to make sure that we have messaging in front of the town hall and to install a digital board. And I think there's probably a lot of support for that. But if we were to do that and this were to pass, then we can't put the digital board up front because it's not allowed use. Hey, Cheryl. It's not allowed use in the town center district. So we have a choice. We either have to say, hey, let's allow this to go through as presented, and then we're not going to do a digital board in front of the town hall, right, because it wouldn't be allowed. Or we'd have to make some tweaks to this so that way we can still try to put forth the spirit of what the intent is of this bylaw, but allow the town hall to be able to have a sign to be able to adequately communicate. We can do that fairly simple. What we can do is that under town center, we can retain it as SA, meaning you just get a permit for it. And then if we were to do that, if you want to go one more page, and then blow that up a little bit, in 654, where it says prohibit in town center, we would just delete that. And everything else then as presented would remain the same. So it would still be, there would still be some type of regulation and oversight on digital boards in the center of town. So if CVS wants to expand its sign, or somebody else, say Crystal's Kitchen wants to put in a sign, there's still a process. It would be an allowed use. They would just go through the permitting process like anybody else would. And the same thing with the town hall. And at the same time, really get at the intent, which was to make sure that we did not allow digital board signs in residential areas.
I'm a little confused, so forgive me.
It's okay. It's not an easy item.
So I'm a little confused, and I'll rewind to the articles. Because I was under the impression that Article 4 was talking about town center district signs and digital message boards. The intent of this article is to assign regulations in the town. So we're basically just assigning regulations in the town to where we could put these digital boards, right? Or adding a permitting.
Yes.
Right. And then in 119, what's the difference in the two?
Is 119 the previous page? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and is this what the current bylaw?
Yeah, so
this
everything that you
reads?
see in black is the current bylaw.
Yep.
So if we do nothing, this is exactly what you have.
Okay,
And
which
by-
wouldn't allow it.
No, it would allow, right now, it does allow the digital sign in the town center.
Okay.
So when that first cover letter talks about just realigning the regulatory aspect of it, it is just talking about how will we regulate digital message boards going forward. And I think the real spirit behind this is that we want to make sure that there are no digital board signs in a residential area. And then two is that initially they were looking to try to prevent digital signs going forward in the town center district. The town center district, for the most part, is pretty commercial. And although nobody wants to see it become Las Vegas, is that I do think that they should have some type of ability to be able to communicate under the regulatory framework of what this says, like everybody else in town has to. Notice that the business and industrial area, the sign is still allowed, and there are no changes to that. So we would not want to harm a business in the town center district and allow a business 35 feet down the road to have a different regulation in reference to the digital board sign. So that's what by keeping it under a special permit, I think that we're being fair across the board. And I'm just bringing it to your attention that if the board sees value in putting a digital sign out front, which I think we do, if we don't make a change to this initial proposal, you will not have that ability to do so.
Agreed. Now I understand what you were trying to say. Sorry.
Well, look, zoning is not easy. Zoning is it's tedious, and quite frankly, all due respect to all planners, it's boring.
There's a lot of words, play on words.
No, I would like to, adjust this, to allow a sign, to adjust it as necessary so that we can move forward and present the town with the opportunity for a sign up front.
So if the board is in favor of that, then what I would be looking for is a vote specifically to this bylaw initially to amend this bylaw request as follows, which is to allow in the town center district to still be allowed through special permit, and there would be no other changes except we have to clean up the language in order to make that possible. Like I said on the second page, page 120, I will delete reference to town center district.
So I'd make that motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to do what Mr. Gagby said.
And I'll second that and vote yes.
Okay, thank you. So then, what we will do then is we'll go back to the cover page. And go one more, please. Yep. So on the zoning bylaws, these here, in order for them to be able to go to town meeting and follow the tedious nature of the law, the planning board has to receive a request from the Board of Selectmen to review them, hold a public hearing, forward them back to you so you can place them on the warrant. So with that said, it sounds like you had no objections to Article 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, and then also adding the single-family dwelling. I would ask for a motion to forward all of those to the planning board for their review.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to forward for review the zoning bylaws for Article 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, as well as the change to the dwelling.
Super. Second that and vote in favor.
And to be clear, the change in the single-family dwelling, it will be 1 acre for a single-family home and 75,000 for a multi-dwelling home.
That is correct.
Okay, then that's what we will do.
And if I can comment real quick, because I did have the opportunity, and I want to thank them. We didn't agree, but I did spend some time with the planning board, and they gave me time, towards the end of one of their meetings to really sit and discuss this, and we went back and forth, and I'm sitting here not in agreement. I believe this is important and should move forward, but I don't want that to make it sound like I didn't value their opinion or their time that they gave me on this. So while we disagree, and I'm guessing that we'll probably disagree again as we forward this, I still want to say thanks to them for their time.
Good.
It was appreciated.
And then we'll go to page 1. Now, these are general bylaws, and the planning board does not have to review these. So if you have no issues with either one of these, they will be placed on a future meeting of which you will vote on to place on the warrant. If you have any objections to them, I won't place them, and if you want to take no action on it tonight, you don't have to. I will just place it on the next meeting when you vote on your warrant articles, and you can spend the next couple of weeks just reviewing it. It's all your choice.
I'm ready to make a decision on this.
Same here. Yes.
Yeah, we were ready to make a decision. I make a motion for the general bylaw amendment recommendations for Article 1 and Article 2 to be placed in town meeting.
Okay. So what I will do is that knowing that, at your next meeting, we will be giving you, at this point, we're at 40 warrant articles, which is a lot for our town. So we will be placing all of those warrants in front of you. You will then go one by one, or we might group them, depending on what the board wants to do, and you will vote to place those on the warrant. But knowing that you're in favor of these two, those two will now be on that document that is presented to you at your next meeting.
Thank you for your assistance.
You're welcome.
Next is the town administrator, I'm skipping, but public comment. Marcy, how are you?
Hi.
All right, and actually we jump back maybe to Cheryl real quick.
I was gonna say that since she's here,
Yeah.
you know, we'll find out what I said wrong.
Cheryl, David went through it. I don't think we knew for sure if you were going to attend, but thank you for being here.
I apologize. I had a very long workday, and when I got home, it just slipped my mind. So thank you
No, you,
for the reminder, and I'll be quick.
Not a problem.
Please, take your time.
So, you should have my memo in your paperwork.
We do.
As I stated, we have 2 projects this year. Last year, we didn't have any projects. This year, we have the Veterans Affairs is going for another $5,000 to continue their work with the plaques and identifying veterans in town. And the more work for the permitting and engineering of the fish ladder. So I saw some of the plans. It looks pretty cool, what they have planned and going on over there. So I know that Chris Iannatelli is getting some extra money, so he's asking for $84,200 from the CPA. If you look to the next paragraph, I have some general balances going into this year. So about $309,884 to play with for this year. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
I feel like I should ask a bunch because you've spent a lot of effort getting here right now, but I also feel like I should let you go.
No,
I'm very familiar with, at this point, I'm very familiar with the CPC. What I was going to say to you when you were done, I'll say to you now. You've been at this for a very long time because I've interacted with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Through various committees and way back even, I think, when going back to town planning and Nancy Maloney and the whole 9 yards, and you've been there. So first and foremost, thanks for your continued efforts on behalf of the town when it comes to CPC. But I do understand it from those and like some of the planning and priority meetings that you've had. So
yeah, it's nice to see a couple of projects this year. So continuing. Good projects.
Thank you. I'm on the Veterans Committee.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
Good.
the work that's being done, we're trying to identify some of the headstones for people that weren't properly marked as veterans. So thank you.
Good. This goes, this is the residents. The CPC is really, we just make sure when the applications come in that they're eligible and they can be presented to town residents. So. But that's definitely something that I think everybody was in favor of.
Yes.
Was it I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of money left over from then, so you'll have some extra money this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
do we know when the fish ladder would be done? I know that's not your project.
Yeah, I do not, because they're still working on permitting and engineering. But hopefully, I have seen some plans. So. It's still progressing, and they'll have a big chunk of money this year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Super. Thank you for running over after a long day.
Well, thank you. Yes.
And thank you for, I don't know, how many years? Can I ask?
I think since 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of time.
Or 2008, actually, sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry.
But thank you.
I have a great group, so.
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me squeeze in.
Not
Thank
a
you.
problem.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
I said public comment period. Was there any public comment? All right. Well, we're moving on to a topic that might be near and dear to your heart. And that is the town administrator, the first item in the town administrator's report.
So this is just an FYI. So this is just to let you know and let anybody else know that's watching is that we'll have a debate on Monday evening on March 25th. Most of the races are uncontested. The uncontested candidates, we have put the rules out where they'll speak for a couple of minutes and tell people who they are and why they're running. And there's one contested race, which is the Housing Authority. They have 2 candidates for 1 position. The debate will start somewhere around 6:45. The doors will open at 6. The moderator should be there. He does have a minor conflict he's trying to change, but the moderator should be there as he has done in the past and to be able to moderate it. and the town clerk and I will both be there as well. I will say this, we do this because there is no other town that I'm aware of that the town administrator's Board of Selectmen's office runs this. It's usually run from either a political party, Democratic, Republican, or it's run by the newspaper. But when I got here in 2013, we didn't have any debates. And I thought that we need to provide some opportunity for people to be able to see who is running and give people, especially who have not been involved before, a forum to be able to talk about themselves and why they thought it was important for them to run. So that's what this is. It will be at the middle school, high school, as it traditionally is. And so again, it's just an FYI. The next item is the tree warden. So our tree warden has been held by our either forestry superintendent, which merged into our DPW director, for 30-something years. And as we know, Chris is retired, and so his position as tree warden is up. Through the years, that position is elected, but really it's really the responsibility of the DPW director, and there's statutes and all those. But so with that said, it is best for us to be able to appoint the tree warden versus have an elected tree warden, because the last thing we want to have is that I don't want to see somebody that's elected as a tree warden with no budget, then say I want the DPW to take down these 18 trees, and the DPW director disagrees, who takes direction from me and from this board, and then we have conflict. So we don't want to see that. And we've been very fortunate for the past 30 years that we've had one person that's been able to do both. The tree warden is actually an appointed position by law, unless you have a local bylaw that says otherwise. And for whatever reason, probably 200 years ago, we chose to have that as an elected position. What's interesting is that in 2009, the Board of Selectmen recognized that it should be appointed, and they brought it to town meeting, and it passed. So for whatever reason at that time, it was also brought to referendum, and it failed. Failed by 50 votes out of 1,000. There is no legal requirement that it has to go to referendum. There was no need for it to go to referendum. And why the town brought it to referendum at that point, I cannot answer that question. So I have a conversation with town council as to whether or not we can accept the original 2009 vote at town meeting and just enforce it, or if we are better off going back to town meeting to be able to get that vote. So we'll see how that plays out. But I want to bring it to your attention because, again, it's an expected article at your next meeting as to whether or not you would want to place it or not. And I wanted to have a discussion in case you had any questions, thoughts, or concerns.
I am fine with it moving to appointed.
When are we going to make a decision on this?
So you will make a decision at your next meeting as to whether or not you want to place it on the warrant.
Okay.
Next, so a handful of years ago, we were looking for a way that we would be able to save residents money. And so we aggregated and went through the process to the Department of Public Utilities, DPU for short, and we allow our residents the opportunity to be able to aggregate their electricity and therefore drive the cost down. Right now with National Grid, it's been a big home run. You can see that over the last handful of years, residents in this town have been able to save literally $2 million by aggregating their electricity. Now, they don't have to. They can opt out. They don't have to participate if they don't want to, but a high majority of ours do. The nice thing is that they can opt in and out every 6 months. There's a 1-800 number that they can call. It's on our website. They can call our office. We can give it to them, and a handful of people sometimes do. But usually we're able to drive the cost down. That contract ends at the end of November. So I have to start the process of deciding whether or not we re-enroll, go out to bid, and present it to the board as to what you would like to do. And obviously it's just not my decision alone. It was a lot of work on our part, and a couple of years ago, I almost made a recommendation not to do it, because one, it's a lot of work, and two, there are some people that when they receive the flyer in the mail and they say, I can't believe you did this to my electricity and I have to opt out, they're just mad. And those are tough phone calls to have to always handle. So, but at that time, we thought about it, and I don't know how we turn a blind eye to an opportunity for the town to save a couple of $1 million So I'm glad that we re-enrolled. I would be making a recommendation potentially to re-enroll in November. And when I say potentially, it's only because I want to put out the bid and know for sure whether or not we're going to save money. So right now you can see, if you blow it up just a little bit, please, up top, you will see that the direct energy price is it says 0.0, but it's really 11 cents or 11.36 cents is what we have for an aggregated rate. In National Grid this past year was at 33 cents. So people, if they stay with National Grid, literally paid 3 times as much. They go out to bid every single year in May and in November, and they only go out to bid for one day. It is by statute. Everybody knows it. And the God's honest truth is, if I said to you, you have to buy a car today, you cannot buy it any other day, and I know you're coming in, I am increasing your cost, right? It's kind of silly. Because National Grid, by statute, cannot mark up that rate. They literally just go out to bid, it's 33 cents, they sell it to you at 33 cents, they don't care. So this gives us a really good opportunity to be able to save people money. The reason I'm putting on the agenda tonight is that when we go out to bid, we literally price this on the commodities market the way you would buying a stock or buying any other commodity. And when we put it out there, we have to make a decision. So if the price comes in at, and I'm going to get this up, if the price comes in at 19 cents, the answer would be no. But if the price comes in again anywhere near 11 or 12 cents, the answer would be yes. And I don't have time to call a meeting, make a decision. That price is long gone. We'd have to rebid it. So whenever the contract comes up, I ask the board for authorization to allow me to place it out to bid. If it's an acceptable price, I execute it, and then I bring it back to the board to actually sign the contract. If you don't want to aggregate it all, then just tell me no, I won't put it back out to bid. But based on these savings, I think it's probably worth it for us to do it.
Agreed. Yes.
So with that said, I would ask you just to take a vote to appoint me the ability to be able to execute pricing.
I make a motion to appoint Mr. David Gagne the ability to execute pricing.
I'll second, vote in favor.
Thank you. Next is really just an FYI, because this is your first budget season. And you don't know it, but you are now done listening to all of your budgets. Every single budget in the entire town has been presented to you, either from the department head or from myself. So you have heard and seen every single budget that's going to go to town meeting. I will spend the next week condensing all of that information, putting it together, and making sure that I'm balanced. What I mean by that is how much revenue do we have coming in based on receipts in Proposition 2.5, and compare that as to what all of our departments are looking for. I also meet with most of them, so I have a really good idea as to whether or not there's fudge in the budgets or if it's a real legitimate budget. And I can tell you the God's honest truth is that these departments heads have come in with pretty lean budgets this year. There's not a lot there. I'll also make some additional tweaks to it. For example, I told you last time we signed a new cleaning contract, so I have to increase those lines. DPW came in and I forget what it was. For solid waste removal, that goes up 2.5% every single year. Mike was new, he didn't have access to the contract, so I'll make those adjustments, and I usually do. And then you'll remember when the water department made their presentation, there are certain lines that we provide for them. Insurance, workers' comp, all those types. So I gotta back those in. So I'll back all of that information in, and then I will present to you a balanced budget at your next meeting and make a recommendation to you on that budget. You will then vote whether or not you like that budget, you want to amend it up, or you want to amend it down. That is this is just like at the state level. The governor presents a balanced budget to the House Ways and Means Committee, and the House Ways and Means Committee votes on it and then brings it to the full legislative body. At the town level, you represent the governor or the executive branch, so you will vote on that budget. Our House Ways and Means Committee is our Finance Committee. So the following night, the Finance Committee will then vote on that budget. It is their recommendation that then goes to town meeting. And the town meeting is our legislative body, and then they vote on it at that point. They have the right to be able to amend it, keep it the same, and amend it up or amend it down. Your budget and the Finance Committee's budget both are in the Finance Committee handbook for transparency's sake. So the entire town knows what the department had requested, what the Board of Selectmen approved, and what the Finance Committee is recommending to the town, which is the budget the moderator reads to town meeting. And then town meeting makes the ultimate decision. So at your next meeting, you will be voting on your budgets. And in addition to that, you will also be voting on which warrant articles to place at the, on the warrant for town meeting. Most of them are usually pretty simple and easy. One of them is the budget. But the other ones are like, I know with you're very sensitive to the exemptions for seniors and for veterans. So that's always one of the articles that we place on there as well. That's an annual article. So all of those you'll vote to place on the warrant. Your capital budget items that you saw tonight, you will vote whether to place those on the warrant or not. And then at the same time, you'll be voting on whether or not you want to place the general bylaw and the zoning bylaws that you saw this evening. You'll be voting to place those on the warrant. You are not making a recommendation, although you can. You are not making a recommendation whether you're in favor or not. You're making a decision whether or not you want to allow the town to vote on those articles. That will be your next meeting on April 3rd. Your following meeting on April 17th, you will then vote on whether or not you're in favor of all of those articles. And your recommendation, and the Finance Committee's recommendation, is in that same handbook that goes to town meeting. So that meeting on April 17th will happen. Next night, April 18th, the Finance Committee will do it. I will compress all of that data, and within a couple of days, Linda and I will be sending that to the printer. It gets printed, and it must be posted a period of time, because right around the corner is May 6th. So it happens pretty fast, but I want to let you know that you've already done and looked at all of your budgets, and that will be the roadmap going forward. Again, I know I went through a lot, and it's your first time, so I apologize for that, but do you have any questions about that process?
I'm good. Kind of gone through it with finance.
Correct, you had, correct. Okay, good. All right, OCPC, which is our regional planning organization. Eldon Marrera is our rep, and then as of last meeting, Mike is now our alternate rep. A subsidiary of OCPC is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO for short. This MPO is the steering committee at the local level as to applying for funds through what they call the TIP money through Mass DOT. A handful of state officials sit on it, along with other local communities. And they make recommendations that ultimately DOT or the legislature has to approve. So for example, it was through the MPO process that the center of town received those funds. The MPO meets, these are the dates that it meets. It actually meets once a month at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it is my understanding, yes, that almost all of them now are done through Zoom. Mary Anderson was our MPO rep, and it serves for a 2-year term. Again, this gets a little complicated, so bear with me. Out of the 20-plus communities, it is broken up into 2 tranches. Large communities over 10,000 and communities under 10,000. West Bridgewater fits in the 7 or 8 communities that are under 10,000. And under 10,000 gets 1 MPO rep. So each community recommends a person, and then OCPC votes on that one person. And Mary won that vote last time. Mary's term was 2 years and was good until November of this year. The only caveat is that that MPO member must be a selectman. So where Mary is no longer a selectman, she can no longer fit in that capacity. It was my understanding from talking to OCPC, and I would have thought, they would have just re-elected somebody else, but they never did. They've just left the position vacant. And they have taken the position that since West Bridgewater was elected, that it wasn't Mary that was elected, it was West Bridgewater that was elected. And as a result, in my communications with them over the past 2 weeks, is that they're saying that if West Bridgewater would like to be able to designate a person for that, is to get a vote from this board, OCPC would then vote, and that would be the meeting schedule going forward for that person to sit on. And then after November, we would reduplicate this entire process. So your options before you is that you can vote for somebody as a recommendation to fill Mary's seat. And it sounds like, again, there's a caveat that OCPC has to rubber stamp it, but it sounds like they will. Or you could take no action, and OCPC could just find somebody else or allow the position to remain vacant until that term expires in the fall.
My immediate thought on this is that, we'll have another selectman in a month, and we traditionally reorg the board and reassign some stuff then. Mike, unless you feel strongly, my suggestion would be we push this to that reorg. We have 3 people, and we can better understand the balance of the board and who wants to do what.
I was just looking at my watch because I was just looking at the date, because
Yeah,
the
those
19th was yesterday.
They're all Tuesdays.
Yeah, because his email was from last week.
Yeah, 19th was yesterday.
And there'll be somebody in the seat, and there probably will be a meeting before April 16th, right?
Yes, you will. You do not have a meeting before your meeting. So your April 3rd meeting, you'll be 2. The election is April 13th.
Yeah, we'll miss it again.
And then April 17th is your next selectman meeting.
I think we need to, unfortunately, I think we need to just fill it now, give them an opportunity because it's been vacant. I don't mind doing it. I could make room in my schedule to do this at 10 a.m.
Okay. Then I will make a motion to appoint you to the MPO.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Thank you. We will contact OCPC and inform them.
Yeah, I just think if the timeline would have been different.
Yeah, sure. This here was pretty neat. I don't remember what I put in the picture. Did I put a picture of the screen? I did not. Okay. So, Bridgewater State University received a grant from the state and spent almost $4 million creating, literally, when they say a state-of-the-art, they really mean it, a state-of-the-art cybersecurity room where you can have instruction and learning and teaching. They have created from the ground up a cybersecurity bachelor's program, and next semester they will start with a cybersecurity master's program. And the very neat thing about this room is that it literally looks like you're on TV. Like when you watch TV and you see like DOD or military or whatever, and they're sitting in front of a big computer screen and they have monitors and they're combating, that's exactly what it looks like. It's excellent. They've done a fantastic job with this. All of us as the 27 communities in Plymouth County have partnered with Bridgewater State University, where each municipality can send one person, one employee, and they could participate in a certificate program. So if we could fast forward to, keep on going, one more. And so there are 3 different programs, a networking, security, and then a high-end cybersecurity program. These are the dates that they meet. They're going to be every Fridays, the first 2, and then Thursdays at the end. They'll meet 8:30 to 2:30 each one of those days. It's in person, it's not remote. What we are doing is that we are subsidizing this to Plymouth County as part of their opera funds, and as part of what Bridgewater State University is also doing, is to allow us for both the network schedule and for the security schedule, that it would only cost us $500 for a person. We only have one spot, for $500 to send a person, and then $750 to send that final person. We don't have a full-time IT department. That's one of our areas that we need to work on in the future. So many of the municipalities that either have a full-time IT person, or most of them that have a full-time and then an assistant, they're sending that assistant. We don't have that. We rely on a third-party outside consultant firm that does do a really good job, but they are the ones that really handle our cybersecurity and are responsible for that. So I placed this on the agenda for 2 things, because one, I think it's pretty neat. The second is that if there is anybody that is listening to this and has any interest that's an employee of the town, they can reach out to me, and if it works, we'll fit that person in. And when I say if it works, I didn't want to send this out as an email because, for example, if a teacher wants to participate, Mark might say, well, I can't lose a teacher every Friday. And that's legit, right? And if a DPW employee wants to do it, I can't lose a DPW person every single week. So maybe there's an administrative person or a clerical person that is looking at this in the future, would like to be able to secure a certificate program to better themselves and for self-development. So I put this on the agenda. That way the information is out there. The first meeting, the first class is this week. Like, they gave us no time. We just met with them last week on this. I toured their facility last Thursday. So it's a pretty fast turnaround, but I put this out there because I thought it would be a missed opportunity if I didn't at least inform the public and inform our employees of this opportunity.
Is this something that the school has seen? Like, my first thought would be like John Collins, not speaking for him, but.
So if nobody else jumps on it, then I would offer it to Mark for John, but John is a teacher at this point. So I'm literally taking him out of the classroom, which is going to have an impact on students.
Okay.
At one time, maybe that would have been different, but that's my fear. I don't want to make an impact to somebody's operations.
Yep, understood.
So again, there's nothing to vote on. It's really just an FYI. I'll answer any questions that you may have. And the last item is that I attended a municipal manager's budget session last week on Friday. And this really just goes over the timeline for how the budgets are voted on at the state level, which again mirrors what we do, which is what you'll see the governor makes a proposal. She's the executive branch, the way you're the executive branch that goes in to the Senate and to the House. And what's very interesting is that the legislation puts out an end of session timeline on July 31st. Two items of note on that. One, they never make their deadline. And two, by Mass Constitution, it's supposed to be July 1st. So it's interesting that they violate the law and they still don't even comply with their extended time frame. In any event, I only placed this out there because I want to let you know where they are in the timeline, which is similar to ours. In the next screen is that there potentially are some issues going forward at the state level. The state has already recognized that there is about $1 billion shortfall in revenue in this current fiscal year. So those have to somehow be plugged in. If we had less revenue coming in this fiscal year, we'd have to make some changes too. So they're currently making those changes. That has been in the newspaper. I can't speak to every single one of them. Some of them are a little bit nuanced, and some of them are real cuts. Obviously, that has an impact on next year's budget. Because if you say I'm going to go up 3% based on last year's budget, and you're already down, you're really going up more than 3%. So right now, there is a consensus estimate that they're hoping to try to keep the budget at a 2% increase year over year versus the revised downward budget. But if that's the case, that means they could have to make further cuts. Now, they make cuts throughout their through their departments, which is what the Healy administration has mostly done at this point, then it has no impact on us. But I can tell you in the early 2010, 2011 period, Deval Patrick, our Constitution doesn't really, state Constitution, does not really provide for a strong governor, except in a couple of areas. And one of them is that they can make unilateral cuts to aid. And I can tell you that at that time, that's what Deval Patrick had done. So hopefully next year, we're not facing that. But that created a lot of pain at the municipal level when you balance your budget based on, we talked about Chapter 70 funds earlier, or other local aid receipts. And all of a sudden in the middle of the year, you'll lose that income. So I'm just giving you a heads up to it. That last line, it says does not include the anticipated surtax revenue. That is the millionaire's tax. And the reason they haven't included it yet is because it always sounds good on paper. But we have already seen wealthy people have one huge benefit over most other people.
They can move.
They can move. Especially if they own businesses. They move. I know this is anecdotal, but if you listen to sports radio, there are sports players that are making decisions now saying, I'm going to go to non-tax income states versus Massachusetts, or you got to pay me more in order to come. So we'll see as to whether or not that $1.3 billion really comes to fruition. That would certainly help to plug some of the gap, but we won't know that until the next 12 months. So again, just giving you an FYI that there is some slowing in the economy and it is impacting revenue. that's the extent of the report.
Hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
In favor. Thank you. And thank you, Tim, for the long night. I think that's our second long night.